He wasn't the man who pulled the trigger, but he was the man who helped make the decisions. Cousin to Al Capone, his bodyguard and counselor, he was a strategic power broker who blended enforcement muscle, political influence, and inter-syndicate diplomacy to a degree few Chicago outfit figures ever matched. He was the Chicago mob's envoy sent to the Havana Conference in 1946, and according to mob lore, he was the one the syndicate tapped to handle the Bugsy Siegel hit. Welcome to James on the Mob. I'm James Jenkins, host and narrator. In this episode, we take a look at a Capone relative and high-powered mobster in his own right, Charlie, Trigger Happy, or the Fixer Fischetti. Charlie Fischetti was born to Luigi and Teresa Fischetti on March 24, 1901 in Brooklyn, New York. He was part of a significant family unit that included three brothers, Rocco, Joseph, and Nicholas. Nicholas went on to pursue a legitimate career as a dentist. The involvement of Rocco and Joseph in criminal activities alongside Charlie was a defining characteristic of their collective rise within the Chicago underworld. Most critically, the Fischetti brothers were the first cousins of Al Capone, a familial bond that proved instrumental in their early integration and rapid ascent within the ranks of the Chicago outfit. Now, legend has it that Charlie earned the nickname Trigger Happy not as a gunman, but as a youth playing baseball, where it said that he had a fast trigger arm, apparently as a pitcher. I'm guessing he was also a happy guy around this time. Charlie's initial foray into the criminal underworld began in South Brooklyn, where he was an aspiring minor bootlegger. His early association with Al Capone, who would soon become the undisputed boss of the outfit, provided Charlie with a direct pathway into the organization. In 1920, a pivotal strategic decision was made when Charlie, along with his brothers Rocco and Joseph, relocated from New York to Chicago. This move was not merely a change of scenery, but a calculated step to join their cousin Al and integrate themselves into his expanding criminal enterprise. This immediate familial connection and the deliberate relocation granted the Fischetti brothers a unique level of trust and direct access to Capone, bypassing the typical probationary period for new recruits and positioning them for a swift rise within the organization. In fact, the brothers, upon their arrival, moved into the Capone family home at 7244 South Prairie Avenue. During this formative period, the Fischetti brothers were deeply embedded in the outfit's core operations, serving as drivers, bodyguards, and gunmen for Capone's outfit. Charlie actively participated in the lucrative business of distilling and distributing bootleg alcohol, marking his foundational involvement in one of the era's most profitable rackets. He also played a direct role in helping Capone extend his criminal reach into Cicero, Illinois, a suburb that rapidly transformed into a significant stronghold for the outfit's illicit activities. On April 1st, 1924, Election Day in Cicero, Charlie, along with his cousins Al and Frank Capone, and another man identified as David Headland, were making the rounds intimidating voters and poll watchers to vote the Republican slate. When they reached the polling station at 22nd and Cicero Avenue, they ran into another group of men they mistook as rival gangsters, but who were in fact plainclothes policemen deputized by a Cicero judge. Now, it's not quite clear who began shooting, but when it was over, Frank Capone lay dead on the sidewalk. Headland was also shot but survived. Al escaped, and Charlie, after ditching his .45 caliber pistol, surrendered to the police, but was never charged. This is a famous post-mortem photo of Frank Capone after his fatal shooting by Cicero police in 1924. It's noted that Frank was the only one of the Capone brothers who died by a violent death. A defining moment in Charlie's career occurred in 1929 when Capone was imprisoned for a year on a gun charge in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Capone, in a testament to Charlie's loyalty and capability, named him to a triumvirate to manage the outfit in his absence. Frank, the enforcer Nitty, was designated head of operations, Jake, Greasy Thumb Guzzi, head of administration, and Charlie was appointed head of enforcement. The landscape of organized crime in Chicago underwent a significant transformation following Al Capone's conviction for income tax evasion in October 1931. His imprisonment effectively removed him from the operational scene, and his mental and physical health slowly deteriorated during his incarceration due to a syphilis infection. Charlie continued as consigliere under the new outfit hierarchy of boss Frank Nitti, underboss Paul the Waiter Rica, and handed his head of enforcement duties to Anthony Joe Batters Accardo. Charlie's criminal enterprises were extensive and geographically widespread, with a particular focus on gambling and labor racketeering operations. He and his brother Rocco were instrumental in running the lavish Vernon Country Club in Lake County, Illinois, and Rock Garden Club in Cicero, which served as major illegal gambling establishments. He also had deep involvement in gambling operations at the Wooford Hotel in Miami Beach, Florida, demonstrating his operational reach beyond the Chicago metropolitan area. By 1950, Fischetti's gambling interest had expanded significantly, reportedly extending to Wisconsin, Ohio, Michigan, as well as Illinois, illustrating the outfit's regional and potentially national expansion through his direct activities. Beyond gambling, Fischetti was widely known as the mob's political fixer in Chicago. He was adept at orchestrating union takeovers, employing his intimidating, non-blinking stare known as Il Malocchio, or Evil Eye. I would say it's a safe bet that this is the point where he traded the nickname Charlie Trigger Happy to Charlie the Fixer. In 1933, the Chicago outfit faced one of its earliest high-profile federal prosecutions in the post-Prohibition era. The case targeted its growing influence in labor racketeering, particularly in the trucking industry, and implicated some of the outfit's most prominent figures: Murray the Camel Humphreys, Jake Greasy Thumb Guzik, Charlie and Rocco Fischetti, and others. The prosecution centered on their control of the Trucking and Transportation Exchange, better known as, and get this, TNT, a powerful front used to extort businesses and unions. Despite witness testimony and strong allegations, the trial failed to produce convictions. Charges were either dropped or the defendants were acquitted. The collapse of the case was attributed to political interference, a lack of corroborating witnesses, and suspected jury tampering or intimidation. This failure highlighted the challenges of prosecuting organized crime figures in the 1930s, when local political and police corruption was widespread. Also in 1933, Charlie was charged with gun possession. He was sentenced to 1 year in prison and a $300 fine. And in spite of the fact that he forfeited a $5,000 bail by not reporting to jail, there is no record that he ever served any time on that sentence. And throughout the 1930s and into the 1940s, his power and influence continued to increase. In March 1943, Frank Nitti committed suicide, a decision Nitti reportedly made to avoid further imprisonment for the Hollywood extortion scheme. This photo shows the aftermath of Frank Nitti's death in 1943, carried from the rail yard where he took his own life amid pressure from the outfit and looming federal charges. The 1943 Hollywood extortion trial marked one of the most significant organized crime prosecutions of the mid-20th century. Aside from claiming Nitti as a victim, it targeted the Chicago outfit's deep infiltration into Hollywood labor unions and the film industry, exposing a vast scheme to extort millions from major studios. This case brought down several top outfit leaders, including Paul Ricca, Louis Campagna, and Johnny Roselli, and highlighted the union manipulation tactics pioneered by Frank Nitti's organization. And although he was facing 10 years in prison, Ricca officially assumed the mantle of boss. He appointed Tony Accardo as his underboss, initiating a partnership that would endure for nearly 30 years. Ricca and most of the others would be sentenced to 10 years in prison, but would receive parole in 3 years and be released in 1947 under some very suspicious circumstances. Under Nitti's leadership and continuing with Ricca, the outfit strategically diversified its criminal enterprises beyond traditional prostitution and gambling. Geographically, the outfit's influence extended significantly during this era. Its reach expanded to Milwaukee and Madison, Wisconsin, Des Moines, Iowa, Kansas City, and notably to Hollywood and other California cities. Charlie and his brothers assumed greater control, overseeing casinos and floating crap games that extended from Chicago all the way to Kansas City. Their gambling ventures were reported to generate an estimated $10 million annually, underscoring the scale of their operations. It was at this point that Charlie would acquire a law enforcement nemesis. In February 1943, Estelle Carey, a glamorous dice girl with connections to outfit-controlled gambling, was found murdered in her Chicago apartment at 500 West Addison Street. The case became infamous not only for its brutality, but also for Chicago Police Captain William J. Drury's failed attempt to frame Charlie for the crime. This event sparked a personal feud that would follow both men for years and foreshadowed Drury's own violent end. Drury, already known for his anti-outfit stance, targeted Charlie, and with limited evidence, he attempted to build a case around the testimony of two teenage witnesses who had allegedly seen a man fleeing the murder scene with fur coats. The two teenage girls brought in by Drury were expected to identify Charles Fischetti, but under pressure, they refused to make the ID. And without their confirmation, Drury's case fell apart, leading to a professional embarrassment. Following the failed attempt, Drury developed a personal vendetta against Fischetti. His career took a downturn. He was suspended in 1944 and removed from the Chicago Police Department in 1947. He then went on to become a private investigator and continued his war on the outfit in general and Charlie specifically. By 1950, Drury was cooperating with federal authorities and was about to testify before the U.S. Senate Kefauver Committee. But on September 25, 1950, he was assassinated in his garage at 1843 West Addison Street. Oddly enough, a half mile from the Estelle Carey murder scene. The mob never forgets. The Havana Conference of December 1946 stands as a monumental event in the annals of American organized crime. Far from a mere gathering, it was a pivotal summit that reshaped the landscape of the American underworld in the post-World War II era, with decisions that resonated across U.S. crime families for decades to come. Convened by the recently deported Charles Lucky Luciano, this meeting aimed to reassert Luciano's authority over American organized crime, resolve burgeoning disputes, and chart new lucrative ventures, particularly in the burgeoning gambling paradises of Havana, Cuba, and Las Vegas, Nevada, and the increasingly profitable narcotics trade. Mob leaders from coast to coast assembled at Havana's Hotel Nacional. Charlie was there, reportedly delivering a suitcase containing $2 million to Luciano on behalf of the Chicago faction. The singer Frank Sinatra flew in with him and his brothers Rocco and Joseph to provide entertainment for the conference. In those rooms, aside from decisions made about casino interests and narcotics, the fate of gangster Benjamin Bugsy Siegel was decided. Bugsy Siegel was a New York gangster who transplanted to the West Coast around 1937. By the mid-1940s, he was involved in a venture for the mob, the Flamingo Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. But Siegel had overrun his budget at the Flamingo. The mob believed he was skimming. And at Havana, they voted, no more patience. Charlie Fischetti received the contract. He passed it to Los Angeles, California boss Jack Dragna, who subcontracted it to hitman Frankie Carpo. And on the night of June 20th, 1947, Benjamin Bugsy Siegel was gunned down in the living room of his girlfriend, Virginia Hill's Beverly Hills home. The attack was sudden and violent. A hail of bullets through the window that ended the life of one of the most flamboyant figures in American organized crime. Shown here is the famous post-mortem photo of Bugsy Siegel moments after he was shot, which was shown across front pages of newspapers across the country. Charlie, though he was suspected in the murder conspiracy, was never fingered publicly. early 1950s marked a new era of federal scrutiny for organized crime, with the establishment of the U.S. Senate Special Committee to investigate organized crime and interstate commerce, better known as the Kefauver Committee. Spearheaded by Tennessee Senator Estes Kefauver, the committee's primary objective was to expose the complexities of organized crime, including its deep roots in gambling and political corruption, and to educate the American public about its pervasive influence. The committee's hearings were revolutionary in their approach. Beginning in 1950 and held in 14 major U.S. cities, including Chicago, these proceedings were widely televised, capturing unprecedented national attention. This marked a turning point in public awareness, fundamentally changing how Americans perceive organized crime. It transformed the image of the mob from local folklore into a tangible national threat. By 1951, the Fischetti brothers, Charlie and Rocco, were regarded by the committee as being on par with other national crime figures such as Frank Costello, Lucky Luciano, Anthony Accardo, Joe Adonis, and Albert Anastasia, indicating their elevated status and broad recognition within the criminal underworld. And because of their high standing, Charlie and Rocco were among the prominent figures sought to testify before the committee when it came to Chicago in early 1951. In a clear demonstration of the increasing pressure from federal scrutiny, both the brothers fled to Acapulco, Mexico, to avoid being served with subpoenas. They eventually surrendered to the committee's sergeant-at-arms on April 2nd. But tragically for Charlie Fischetti, he suffered a fatal heart attack and died on April 11, 1951, in Miami Beach, Florida, 9 days before he was scheduled to testify before the committee. He was 50 years old. His brother Rocco would go on to testify on May 28th and be cited for contempt, a motion that was later overturned. Charlie's funeral was a grand and public affair, underscoring his prominence within the criminal underworld. It was held at Our Lady of Peace Roman Catholic Church in Brooklyn, New York. The scale of the event was notable, with an estimated 1,500 mourners in attendance and over $30,000 in flowers decorating the funeral home. So goes the story of Chicago outfit mobster, fixer, and cousin of Al Capone, Charlie Fischetti. Fischetti stands as an indispensable figure in the annals of the Chicago outfit, transcending the typical image of mere mob enforcer. His career trajectory from Al Capone's trusted cousin, chauffeur, and bodyguard to head of enforcement and general manager illustrates a rare combination of strategic acumen and financial prowess, and an uncanny ability to navigate complex political and criminal landscapes. His deep involvement in national syndicate affairs, epitomized by his presence at the Havana Conference, cemented his status as a top-tier organized crime leader. In the 1967 movie, The St. Valentine's Day Massacre, Fischetti is portrayed by the actor Paul Richards. I'm James Jenkins. This has been James on the Mob. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, hit that like button, subscribe, leave a comment, and stay tuned for another episode of James on the Mob. And remember, life is short, so don't whack it off. See yous.